Welcome to part 3 of sculpting a human skull. So we're going to add the teeth. I keep on getting caught up in this. But anyways, what I'm going to do is append a subtool, and I'm going to use a cube for one tooth. Right now it's in the center of the skull, so it's kind of hard to see unless you turn on transparency, which I'm going to do. And I will scroll down to my deformations and use size to just scale it down. So I'm just a general, get the right proportions. And use my transpose line to squish it. And I actually don't need to have symmetry on at this point, so I'm going to be making them. And then I'll copy it over. So let's rename this subtool tooth. And kind of move it into place a little bit, turn on my reference planes. About there. About here. Now if I hold down Control with my transpose line, I can drag a mask onto here. Trying to see it now. My reference gone. I'm going to invert that, and I just want to scale it inward a little bit. This tooth. It's not a perfect box. We'll make it a little bit more rounded by polishing. So quick polish will get that done pretty easily. Maybe a little inflate. Let's relax. There we go. Squish it down a bit in size. Let's see how that's looking. And here I'm just going to use my move brush. Just move it to fit the shape I want to. I'm going to copy this tooth over a lot, so kind of get at least a general shape to the first one. I want the bottom to be a little bit harder edged. So just solo mode for a second and trim dynamic. Okay, so there is one tooth. I'm going to duplicate this around a little bit. Now I need to go to solo mode. So holding down Control, I have my Move Transpose selected. I don't have any mask on here. And I'm actually going to delete my lower subdivisions too, because it doesn't work with subdivisions. By holding down Control with my Move tool, I can copy that subtool. I'm also holding down Shift so it's constrained to my line I have going. I want to rotate this. Just doing my general move, transpose, tools, to line this up, to hide my mandible. Let's fit this on. Just keep on. We'll move them all into place a little bit later, get them more refined. But general placement for this particular round. holding down Control with my move action to place them. Alright, so I have 8 teeth on this side. It's a good approximation. Let's look at the sub-tools on this one. Hiding floor plane. They're all the same sub-tool. So I actually want to change, polygroups. So I want to go to my polygroups drop-down palette and auto group. So now I can easily control click with the transpose tool any one of these to quickly select them and move them about. Mask all the others. That's just in the transpose line, clicking control click. Now before I get too much farther, I'm actually going to mirror these. Mirror and weld in my modify topology. Boom. Turn on symmetry. Okay. I like just working on the character's left side, so that's why I did that. Control click, and that will get just that subtool active. And I can start moving these teeth, which is going to be a pretty tedious process, but completely necessary. Just moving. This part of the video will just be sped up, so it doesn't take as long just to watch me do this over and over. So here I've finished up the teeth, got those on place, and I'm going to actually just call this pretty good for the skull. It has a good base on it. I'm not going to go through all the pieces. It's just the main sections and pieces here. I will add a little bit more detail and some of the porous texture that the skull has. Oops, you can see some of that little dimpling going on. I want to get some of that. So first thing is make sure I have enough subdivision levels to support that. And as I can see some of the wireframe, I don't have enough subdivisions. So I'm going to Control D, subdivide again, and we'll see how this works. For the brush, I'm going to be using a standard brush and making some modifications to this. And change the focal shift to be much smaller. Add a alpha. And for the strokes, I'm going to put this on spray. Well, at least have the detail, but it's really smaller. I'm just switch this from Z add to Z sub so I don't have to hit Alt every time. Change the intensity. There, that's kind of the results I'm looking for. Just a little bit of little pock marks. So I'll just go over the skull with a little bit of this detail to it. Changing the size of my brush so I can have a variety of scale. Not going to worry about the underside of the skull too much. Alright, for the next part, I'm going to add a little bit more detail to it. And instead of having alpha number 40, I'm going to try alpha 08. Focal shift is about 44, the intensity is something like 5, and still on spray. And Z sub. This just gets a little bit different of a texture to it. Put that where I feel like it. Use a little bit of that. Keep the radius, my size, draw size pretty small. Just add a little bit. So you can use alphas pretty nicely for adding just a little bit of texture. Give it kind of bone-like feel to it. So it's not quite so smooth. Let's smooth this part out. That looked it's a bit too big. Switch back to my standard brush. sculpting the skull. Whenever I want to smooth something out, but I don't need to be too exact on that, I can go to my brushes, and there should be smooth peaks or smooth valleys depending on what you want, but I kind of want to smooth the valleys because I've been cutting in, and that just replaces your regular smooth up here. So when I hold down shift, I now have smooth valleys instead of smooth general. It just gets just the valleys, smooth nothing else. Okay, going on to the mandible. Did the same treatment I did the top part of the skull. Alright, and I'll switch my alpha to alpha 40, just a little dot thing. Get in some bigger crevices. I'll subdivide ones too. It's looking like it. Not quite strong enough. Turn some intensity. Okay. That looks interesting. Smooth a little bit of those. So I got a stray piece there. Smooth that out. And I don't feel like I need to do any of that texturing to the teeth. And so now I have a skull. Just do a little bit of renaming here. Now these are top teeth. So those should go up. Rename top teeth with 3 E's. Bottom teeth. Alright. And of course save. And that would be completed skull. There's definitely a lot more details that you can put into this, but as a good starting base, this is how I would go about sculpting the skull. And that is the final part of this 3-part Sculpting the Skull series. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you again next time.